Good morning, good afternoon, good evening from wherever you're joining us. Thanks for joining us for our Windows 365 Ask Microsoft Anything. So, thank you for all the returners. It's probably been a busy couple of weeks for you from Microsoft Ignite to potentially US holidays. So, really appreciate the time now that you're here with us. So, I'm your host, Christian Montoya. Been here for a while now. So I am working on the identity areas of Azure Virtual Desktop and Windows 365 as a refresher. But I'd also like to do a quick introduction for our amazing panelists, all who had some great feature announcements and feature updates at Microsoft Ignite. So I'll go ahead and start. Elaine, if you want to go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Christian. Hi, everyone. This is Elaine to talk about Windows 365 for agents. We went public preview at Ignite. It's our first SKU of Windows Cloud PCs for agent use. Back to you, Christian.
Cool. Yeah, we'll go around the horn here. So maybe Killian and then Lavanya Serena.
Hey folks, I'm Killian. I'm a product manager working on AI-enabled cloud PCs. We announced our Frontier public preview at Ignite this year, so very excited to share those with you.
Hey folks, this is Lavanya. I'm a product manager with the AVD and Windows 365 team. Super excited to talk about secure BYOD. This is something that, we had a session. We talked about, how we are strategically, securing BYOD devices for all of our customers.
Great, and I'm Serena. I'm the product manager that's been working on Windows 365 Cloud Apps. We announced our GA at Ignite, as well as support for a ton of other exciting features.
Awesome. Yeah, so y'all gave a quick recap of all your announcements, which is super cool. I do want to make sure that we can provide the links for those. So I'll sort of just replay this also, and then that way, folks, you can pull it up on the side as we start today. So as folks mentioned, as Elaine mentioned, Windows 365 for agents, that was announced. And so you can find that at ak.ms/w365 for agents Ignite blog. I'm going to keep giving you some blog links and doc links here. For what Killian mentioned with the AI-enabled cloud PCs, you can also read that blog along with the Frontier preview at ak.ms/AI cloud PCs. For what Lavanya mentioned with bring your own device, BYOD, there's a great article on the great feature, the secure input protection. So ak.ms/WCIO Protection Ignite 2025. And then what Serena mentioned, the GA of Cloud Apps, you can see the documentation for that at ak.ms/W365 Cloud Apps. And then for any of the other Ignite info and sessions and content, we have our full session list for all of Windows at Ignite, where Windows 365 and Azure Virtual Desktop played a part of. So that's at ak.ms/Windows at Ignite. So a lot of different links. Feel free to pull those up. We'll start introducing some of the concepts, but please do chime in with any questions you may have so we can answer those for you. So maybe let's start with Killian. I'm going to start with you with the AI-enabled cloud PCs and the Frontier. So what are these two concepts and how do they apply for customers?
AI-enabled cloud PCs bring a select feature of Copilot Plus PCs to normal cloud PCs. For example, on Copilot Plus PCs, you can use improved Windows search, and you can also use the click-to-do features. For folks who are familiar with those, you can now use them on specific cloud PCs that meet minimum SKU requirements, and those are having a minimum of 8 vCore CPU, as well as a minimum of 256 gigabyte storage. And then after your IT admin, it gives you AI enablement through Intune. You'll be able to see these features after the background installation processes finish. So by going through AI enablement on select SKUs and select regions, those are also posted on our public documentation through the links that Christian shared. You'll be able to take advantage of these great features that otherwise required a local NPU on a Copilot Plus PC.
Awesome. And then you also mentioned Frontier when you're talking about it. How does the Frontier program relate to the AI-enabled cloud PCs?
It's a great question. So typically a lot of our features go through the standard public preview to GA pipeline to give our customers an opportunity to try out features before they become generally available. With Frontier Public Preview, this is actually a new program for Microsoft All Up, more recently specific on Copilot features and Microsoft Broad. So we're bringing this to Windows, starting with Cloud PC, being the frontier for Frontier. And so it's a great way for customers to get to use these features earlier as we're figuring out how we can bring the most value for customers and give us feedback so that we can improve upon them until we figure out when we're ready for a solid general availability release where we can make sure that there's a great fit for everyone.
Okay, awesome. And just real fast in terms of the AI-enabled cloud PCs, are there specific Windows 365 Enterprise or Frontline SKUs that that you can turn on the feature for?
Yes, so there are minimum SKU requirements. You can use any SKU as long as they have at least 8-core vCPU and they meet a minimum of 256 gigabyte storage. So any
Oh,
SKUs that meet those minimum requirements and higher are eligible to be enrolled into AI enablement, is what's called in Intune. And you can find all those details through the documentation of all the specifics and how to get there and the steps to follow.
okay, awesome. And then yeah, one question that came in that's related to the AI-enabled features is, can I use cloud PCs from any device, including ones that a physical device that doesn't have an MPU?
Yes, that's the magic of this feature. So wherever you can access Windows 365 in general through all of the different mobile apps, web application, Windows, wherever you're accessing your cloud PC and you have those eligible SKUs that are set up with AI enablement, you can access these specific features. And you can do this on a Copilot Plus PC, or you can do this on an Android device or anywhere that you normally use those cloud PCs today.
Awesome. So no direct. I mean, your physical device doesn't really matter. Like all the magic's really happening on your cloud PC.
Correct.
Awesome. Okay, cool. I'm sure we'll come back to that. So again, folks, thank you for the questions. And then kind of on the same topic of AI, Elaine, I'm gonna kind of go point over to you. You did a brief intro of Windows 365 for agents. Can you go into a little bit more detail of what it will provide, or how customers will be able to use this in their environments?
Yeah, thank you, Christian. So Windows 365 for agents is providing agent makers and enterprises, consumers, a new way where, say, you want expense report automated or web actions automated. You can delegate that to agents and to complete that in your governed, policy-controlled cloud PCs. So we're a platform that allows agents to get resources, create cloud PCs, and the end user can also see what's happening, intervene, or pause. So the agent isn't doing anything that you don't want or touch any data that they're not allowed to. So we're an infrastructure platform, and right now customers can already experience this feature via some of the Microsoft first-party agents that we work with, including Copilot Studio, where you can configure custom enterprise apps for agentic workflows, as well as Copilot Researcher and M365 Copilot app for the computer use feature. The Opal project is also in the M365 Copilot launcher. And lastly, we are working with a third-party global leading AI agent, Manus AI, that's coming as well for intelligent PowerPoint editing.
Okay, so that's really cool. So you basically mentioned that in some of the areas where customers are already using today, they actually might already be using Windows 365 for agents because it's the platform that's creating the VMs that are running.
Exactly. And one thing to highlight too, that the cloud PCs from Copilot Studio and Project Opal if you're an existing Windows 365 customer, you will see these devices in the Intune Win 365 tab as well, and apply the policies that you want them to have.
Got it. That's cool. Yeah, I remember because we already have, Windows 365 is already the platform for DevBox. It's already the platform. What is it called? The Power Automate.
Hosted machines.
Yeah, the hosted machines, the RPA box. And so, yeah, I remember in the all cloud PCs list, those are showing up. Are you saying that the cloud PCs that created for these other use cases will also show up
Yes.
in all cloud PCs as well?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's pretty cool. So, so that means they're, joined to the Entra tenant, joined to Intune, managed so way you can, lock it down, restrict it. Is that right?
Exactly.
Okay. Yeah, and it looks like that's, one of the questions that is getting asked is how do we manage the Intune? Do you know, in our current enterprise and business cloud PCs, there's different ways in our documentation that we say to group the cloud PC, so you can manage it and group it by the provisioning policy name, which is the enrollment profile name. You can do it by SKU, like all your AVCPU cloud PCs. You can also do it by, we prescribe another one. There's a third one, but
Created
is there
by
anything
filter licensing? Do you mean the Intune filters on cloud
Yeah,
PC page?
yeah,
Okay.
exactly. Intune filters or the dynamic Entra dynamic device groups. So my question is there anything identifiable with these cloud PCs that get spun up through, through the Windows 365 for Agents platform? That way you can also group them into filters or device groups to do maybe unique management, unique policies. Is there anything identifiable in the device or in the device SKU or something?
Yeah, in the All Cloud PCs page, these devices are tagged as agents, so you can filter them that way and target any specific policies toward them.
Okay, cool. Yeah, and I think that sort of relates to this question here that we got, which is, can we have separate policies for agent cloud PCs versus regular or, I don't know, human use cloud PCs? And it sounds like the answer is yes.
Yeah, I believe so. And there was another question that came in, I can see, about how do we manage these. So one thing to highlight is depends on the agent partner we work with. There's different needs they have. So for example, Copilot Studio Cloud PCs and Copilot Opal Cloud PCs, they are Intune and Entra enrolled. But right now, the researcher computer use is not enrollment on domain or Intune, and that's why Copilot Researcher cannot have enterprise data access, but Copilot Researcher itself can. It's just a computer use feature cannot. But we're working on enabling domain joined, Entra joined cloud PCs for Copilot Researcher computer use too, so those machines can be managed by Intune and access corporate resources.
Okay, cool. That's a good distinction. And yeah, for folks listening, definitely start trying each of those out. Yeah, whether it's like you said, the researcher with computer use, which doesn't use is not enrolled into Intune and Entra. So if you have conditional access policies for data and try doing computer use, then that might not work. But the regular researcher will, or continue trying out what's available in Copilot Studio. So please do try that out and start giving us feedback. We would love that. And also, for as you're listening here and as we're really introducing these brand new concepts, please do ask us questions so we can make sure we answer ones that are pertinent to you. You can ask questions at ak.ms/Windows 365 AMA. Okay, cool. So Elaine, thank you for that brief deep dive. Again, I know for both of these kind of AI based feature scenarios, I'm sure we'll get back to this for some more detailed questions. I do want to switch over to Lavanya for this secure input protection, because I don't think we've brought this up yet. That seems, did we announce, was it public preview at Ignite, or tell me more?
So this was part of the overall strategy for secure BYOD and specifically keyboard input protection. It was a public preview announcement at Ignite.
So, and then can you tell me a little bit more on what it provides and also what the the physical device requirements are?
Okay, awesome. So yes, like I said, the input keyboard protection, it is one of the many features that we do plan to kind of put into the overall suite of Windows Cloud input protection. So what we have released is keyboard protection. And what it really is doing is, I think all of you must have heard about, keylogger malware or keystroke injection attacks. So you can have an attacker, a malicious user, either install a keylogger malware and then they're basically logging and they're trying to see, basically your user credentials and passwords and so on, or they could inject codes. They could do a keystroke injection on your behalf and then create havoc. So this particular feature this basically encrypts any kind of input that you are entering using a physical keyboard. And it comes into play where we are basically securing your cloud PC and saying, hey, when I've enabled this particular feature, that will take input only from a physical device that has this particular MSI that is installed on it. So you asked me, what are the requirements? There are requirements. You need to have TPM 2.0 on your physical machine. This is pertaining to a physical keyboard, not a virtual keyboard. And also, obviously, it's a Windows device is the first release. Though we do plan to, expand this to other platforms like macOS, iOS, Android, Linux, etc.
Okay, cool. And then how would you turn on the feature? Is it similar to, let's say, screen capture protection where there's an RDP property, or yeah, how do you turn this on?
Got it. RDP property is coming soon. Right now, for AVD Cloud VMs, you can enable this using GPO. So you can quickly go to your GP editor, that is you as in the IT admin persona. You can go in and then you would see enable keyboard protection. So you would navigate to that and then you would just double click and apply. So automatically the feature is enabled for that cloud VM. So any of the end users who are trying to connect to that cloud VM will automatically get an error message on their side when they're using Windows app to connect, where they will get an error message saying, hey, you're connecting to a secure cloud PC, which has this feature enabled. So you will need to download the corresponding security feature on your physical device. They will be navigated to the Learn documentation where there are details about how you would download the MSI and install the MSI. And once you do that, you basically both ends are protected, your physical endpoint and your cloud PC. And then you're basically able to, talk and navigate and interact with the cloud VM. For Windows 365 Cloud PC, today you can enable it using registry key. But eventually, once we go GA, that is when we will be leveraging something called the settings object framework, which allows us to enable this using RDP properties for both AVD and Windows 365.
Got it. Okay. Yeah, because I know that we are, we're starting to use, and actually, Killian, I think the AI-enabled cloud PCs, is that how you turn it on through like Windows 365 settings or something?
It's actually managed through Intune. So IT admins turn on AI enablement for specific users through policies. And then after that rolls out, those end users can see that their cloud PCs are AI enabled through a tag and the Windows app itself. So on the device card where you might otherwise see frontline or GPU enabled, there's a new AI enabled tag. So end users can understand before they enter their session.
Okay, right. Yeah, because I know that we're starting to bring together a lot of the settings for Windows 365, into one central place. And so, Livonia, that sounds like what you're mentioning with the Windows 365 settings, where we have different policies and profiles. So that's cool for for
It looks like there was a
GA. So yeah, actually, I think it's similar to some of the questions, which is so you'll be moved over to Windows 365 settings. You said right now it's essentially available through a GPO or through a reg key.
Yes.
So is that how customers today would deploy this at scale, is through a settings catalog or GPO?
Yeah, so for AVD, they would basically use GPO, and yes, it is a little, time consuming and painful to, enable it using registry key. But GA is pretty close around the corner, so we do plan to kind of leverage the amazing way to actually, go and enable this using RDP properties.
Okay, awesome. And then one more question on that. When you turn on the setting or you push it out through Intune and it gets pulled by the VM, does the setting just apply immediately? So if a user's logged in and and they don't have the local client-side requirements, they're coming from non-Windows, or they don't have the additional MSI, does that user get kicked off?
No.
Or does this just apply essentially the next connection?
Yes, at the next connection.
Okay.
And again, non-Windows is not supported. So anyway, like they would get an error message saying, hey, we don't support this at this point of time. But if you are a Windows machine, a Windows 11 and above machine from your physical device, then next time you log in, you are pretty much basically getting that error message saying that, you would need to install that MSI. Also, there was another question where they were, I think the question was, so Windows 365 is keyboard input protection managed by policy. Currently, it is not, but eventually, we do want to kind of plug this as part of conditional access policies where you can set policies and, decide which kind of device you want to connect and all those kind of configuration possibilities. But right now, it is not.
Okay, cool. So we'll probably have more questions on this soon. But I do want to pop over. We have a question from LinkedIn, which kind of is both a security and AI question. From a risk management perspective, what should organizations consider before broadly adopting AI agents in Windows 365?
So, I'll try to answer this really quick. As organizations try to adopt AI agents, first, if you can read in their documentation that they're built on Windows 365, which most of the cases, if it's a Microsoft computer use agent, it is, then that's where you can start applying policies to target these devices and these actions, so you can rest assured. Some of the existing, for example, human use regular Windows 365 policies like data residency, if you work in Australia and you don't want those cloud PCs for agents to be in a different region, you can control that as well, just as a very simple example.
And then I guess, Lavanya, since we're working on, me and you are working on different security identity features, is there any guidance that you have from a risk management compliance perspective when it comes to using the AI agents?
So this is a very new area, and we definitely want to look into a very holistic kind of security with respect to AI agents. So this is something that we need to kind of look into. Moreover, like from a security angle, in general, I think what we want to make sure is we understand the threat vectors, and that's exactly kind of similar to what we did in the secure BYOD as well. Like not just look at one particular aspect of security, but very broadly look at, how does the user interact with the cloud PC and really comb through each and every step. And like you mentioned, Christian, we're looking at Windows Cloud security in three big, broad areas like, secure identity, secure access, and secure data. So look at all the, threat vectors which pertain into all these three areas. You could have phishing attacks, you could have data loss happening in terms of secure access, and then of course we talked about keylogger malware and secure data. And overall, like, do you want to keep this on by default and this kind of thing. So even when it comes to the AI agents world, I think a good idea would be to kind of look at that in a holistic way, and then basically kind of deep dive into what areas, what kind of protection that we would love to offer.
Yeah. I think also, and it's very related, because there's another question from LinkedIn that was, what types of logging, oversight, and traceability exist for AI-generated actions on Windows 365 sessions? And I think maybe before I go into, maybe Killian has some info here, but I also want to take a step back, and like Levon, you mentioned that agents throughout Microsoft are really just it's really a new identity type.
Yes.
So everyone's just used to users, internal user, a guest user, just users, humans essentially. And sometimes they serve as accounts, but mostly it's users.
Yes.
And throughout all of Entra, throughout all of Purview, everything's just been based off of human users. And so throughout Microsoft, we are taking a step back and saying this agent is a new user type. So let's make sure that all the features that we have, and all the protections we provide, in Entra, in Purview, in Defender, let's make sure it works with agents. And so I know specifically Entra is taking that lens. There's different conditional access controls that you'll also be able to use when it comes to agents. That way you can say that maybe even there's some of your own apps and data that you only want human users to access and you don't want an agent to access.
Yes.
So,
and also, like, just like how we have different types of users, there are different types of agents. Elaine talked about computer use agents. There are and she also mentioned about Manus AI, where you have completely autonomous agents. Then you have Copilot, which are kind of semi-autonomous agents. So we need to really think about, the agent space is just growing massively. So we need to really look at, what kind of agents that are there and how do we kind of protect, based off these agents. And you also brought up a good point about, identity about a user. Similarly, there is identity for agents as well, which we can completely leverage and, build security models based on exactly like a scenario that Elaine was talking about. If this agent is going and accessing my expense report on my behalf, that agent could be doing all other things because it has access what I have. So understanding that and putting security models in the right place is very important. And that is something that, our team is going to be looking into.
Yeah. And maybe my sort of last question on this topic is, a lot of the protections and a lot of observability and whatnot, it usually comes down to the platform, I think. At least that's kind of the way that Microsoft will generally solve, is by making sure at the platform level there's all these controls, and then based off of specific apps and services, AVD and Windows 365 are different services on top of the platforms sometimes. But I know, Elaine, you're driving the Windows 365 for Agents platform. And so do you have any info in terms of logging, oversight, or traceability of AI, of agents, or actions that the agents are taking when it comes to Windows 365 for agent cloud PCs?
Yeah, so in addition to, for example, Defender, Purview, Intune, those will apply to the agent workloads as well. We, as a platform from Windows 365 for agents, we are providing oversight traceability for both during the agent actions and after. So during the agent actions depends on some of the agent providers and what they prefer. For example, in Copilot Researcher Computer Use, you see what the agent is doing live. So if you don't want it to be doing something, you can take over and override the agent to do something different or stop them from their existing action. And that's the same case for Project Opal and M365 Copilot as well. And Opal also gives you a very clear auditing log with screenshots, steps taken, timestamps lined up to each. For Copilot Studio, they have auditing that you can pull up after the action as well.
Okay, cool. And and sorry if you mentioned this, will there be a central place for this, or in terms of all the observability, or will this be based off of the different tools that leverage the platform of Windows 365 for agents?
Great question. Right now, they're managed and determined by our agent partners on how they want to expose this.
Okay, cool. That's good to know. I was gonna joke. We're gonna take a quick ad break. No, I want to make sure. We also just take a quick break from the AI stuff. I want to jump into CloudOps real fast. Just because I know we probably have folks that joined in a little bit later after initial start. And I want to make sure that y'all are aware of all the improvements and what got released for GA for CloudOps. In case y'all have any questions. So, Serena, can you just provide a quick update of improvements of CloudOps as we went GA at Ignite?
Yeah, sure. First of all, define what CloudOps are in case anyone watching doesn't know. So CloudOps is a new feature on Windows 365 that allows admins to provide just apps to their end users instead of the full desktop. It's something we decided to build because so many folks are saying, my users don't need a full desktop just to access a few applications. Like, can you please provide that app-only experience on Windows 365? So that's what CloudOps are. And we've been in private preview, I think, since 6 months ago, but we've gotten a lot of feedback since then, and we tried to prioritize a lot of the feature requests you guys had, and all of those went public at Ignite last week, 2 weeks ago. So some of them include, I think one of the biggest ones was our new feature called User Experience Sync. So that enables app settings and Windows settings and app data to roam with your users on our frontline shared SKU. And that's not just for cloud apps, that's for full desktops as well on our frontline shared SKU. A huge new feature that I hope a lot of you will take advantage of. And then we also have support for Intune Autopilot device preparation now. So for those of you who aren't aware, that's a feature that's existed in Intune for a while, and it allows you to define apps and scripts to have installed on your physical and cloud PCs before your end users connect. And we now support that also on all Windows 365 SKUs. And most importantly for cloud apps, this allows you to publish existing Intune apps as cloud apps. That's a huge, huge feature request we had during our preview. So we're super excited that we now support that as well. I can keep going on and on. So another feature also is Windows App Support. A lot of folks complain, hey, we don't have start menu integration. There's no end user reset options in case our end users want to troubleshoot on their own. So we built that as well. So yeah, all these new features coming out for our GA.
Yeah, that's awesome. One question I had was actually on the integration with the user experience sync. Are there ways for customers to manage those, or do they sort of just get created as soon as the user logs into the pool? And then is there any other manageability aside from deleting those?
Yes. Okay, so GA, so cloud for cloud apps and for cloud PCs on frontline shared. In the provisioning policy, there's a checkbox in the configuration steps where you enable this feature for user experience sync. So you'll check, I want to enable user experience sync. And then the first option you'll have is what size of storage you want for your user. So I think it's like 4 gigs, 8 gigs, 16 gigs. I know depending on your use case, if you're just using apps, maybe you don't need a ton of storage. If you are using a full cloud PC, maybe you want to give your user a little bit more storage. So you can configure those options. And then once your users log in, you'll see their user profile, or sorry, you'll see their username pop up in our policy blades, and you'll be able to delete them. And I think that's the only management action for now, but we are working on evolving the feature in the coming months.
Okay, cool. And I think as the refresher for folks, again, that weren't, haven't used Cloud Apps, haven't tested them, can you remind me, how do you actually create this experience for users? And can you remind me, is it across enterprise, business, and frontline SKUs, or is it limited just to frontline?
Yeah, so I'll answer that last question first. So Cloud Apps are built on frontline shared Cloud PCs, so it is only supported on the frontline SKU, and we made that decision because app usage generally isn't 24/7. It's pretty task-based. Like most users are just using apps for a little bit and then exiting out. So it made sense to build on our shared devices. So only supported on frontline for now. Obviously, if others are interested, we can totally build that. And then creation is just like any other Windows 365 resource. You create a provisioning policy, and we have a new option for user experience, and that'll either be your full cloud PC or the cloud app. So for cloud apps, obviously you want to toggle the cloud app.
And then, are there do the apps themselves, do they have to be built into the image, or can you deploy them separately through Intune?
You can deploy them either or both. So if you want to bring your custom applications, you can either use a custom image. So we've supported that since our preview. And so once the Cloud PC is provisioned, we scan the start menu and we'll find everything there, and that's what you can publish. Or you can use the autopilot device preparation feature from Intune and specify which applications you want to include on your Cloud PCs. And then again, once those Cloud PCs get provisioned, we'll scan that start menu and show you what we find. So either or both.
Awesome. And then, sorry, last question. Is the in terms of just managing the OS for the frontline shared machines, is it just like regular frontline shared management, where I think there's a couple like life cycle actions of, I think you can reprovision them or something like that?
Yes. So Cloud Apps do run on frontline shared devices. So when we spin up those frontline shared machines, and they show up in all Cloud PCs, just like your normal frontline shared or any other Cloud PC. And so any kind of device management action is going to be just like any other Cloud PC. I think like Lavanya was talking about various security features. Super common question is like, hey, how do I enforce screen capture protection or any of my other security policies on Cloud Apps? And the answer is it's the same as you would for any other Cloud PC. You would apply those policies or settings on the underlying Cloud PCs for your Cloud Apps. And then they would apply to the end user when they log on.
Awesome. Yeah, and actually kind of going back to the DPP that you can do for frontline shared machines. I know that was the first release of it, and then Serenity mentioned that now that's available for enterprise and enterprise machines or other frontline dedicated, right? Yeah. I am personally such a huge fan of that because, like you said, for security, I know that there are customers that run, specific security agents on their VMs or VPNs on the VMs, and for the longest time, they have the requirement, which is a valid requirement, that they must have that agent or or VPN installed and running prior to the user actually connecting and logging into the machine. And so I'm just very excited about this feature because now we can go back to those customers and say, this is exactly how you do it without having to do a custom image. So anyways,
Exactly.
I'm just very happy about it.
Super. Also, as an end user and information worker, you don't have to wait for your apps to download. They'll all be there immediately when you access your device. So lots of goodness from this autopilot device preparation feature.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm very excited about that. And the cloud apps. I'm also, as you mentioned, there's going to be continuous updates and improvements along with integration with the user experiencing. So I'm excited to hear more. And yeah, folks, if you have questions for Serena on this stuff, please do type in the chat since time is flying and we only have 20 minutes left, which is crazy. So, all right, so enter that in the chat so we can get to your questions. Let's see here. If we go to, let's see. If we do go back to the Here's a question from X. How will the licensing structure evolve to accommodate increased reliance on AI-centric features in Windows 365? And maybe Elaine, maybe this would be for you.
Yeah, so that's a great point. Right now, Windows 365 for human use has been per user per month because those machines take usually are live for a longer time. But for agent use, they're much more task-based, and we recognize that. So for Copilot Studio running on Windows 365 for agents, those are consumptive pricing per hour. And the enterprises who use them will see the line item in the Power Platform Admin Center that's meter-based. For our partners like Copilot Researcher, Computer Use, and Copilot Opal, the Cloud PC usage are baked into the Copilot license, so you don't need to pay anything more at this point.
Okay, cool. So in this case, it's I think we end up coming back to a lot of the questions are, is it the platform or the partner? So I think right now you're mentioning that so far for some of these, for the licensing right now, a lot of it is whichever solution you're using, whichever tool you're using.
Yes, and it is our platform's intention that for agents will be based on consumption rather than per user per month flat. Yeah.
Okay, cool. And then maybe just a related question for you, Killian. In terms of licensing for AI features, you mentioned that there was a minimum requirement for the cloud PCs to have 8 vCPUs and 256 gigs of storage. Are there any other additional, is there any add-on that customers need to do, need to purchase and assign, or is it just having a cloud PC that meets the specs?
So you start with the cloud PC that meets those specs, and then they need to be deployed in one of the subset of regions that we currently support. So we also have that list of regions on our Learn documentation. Outside of that, the specific cloud PCs that meet those requirements need to be enrolled with AI enablement through Intune. So that's through setting a policy. And then once that policy has had time to set up the background process on the cloud PC, it can take up to like 72 hours for all the background processes to finish. Then the AI features are available. So what that means is that there is no additional add-on licensing at this time for the two supported features, which are improved Windows search and click to do.
Okay, cool. So cloud PC meets the specs and the regions that we support, and then you would have access. Well, you have to turn it on for specific cloud PCs.
Yeah, the IT admin turns it on, and the end user just gets to have it. And they can see if they have an AI-enabled cloud PC through the Windows app on the device card.
Okay, nice. And awesome. So the documentation that you've updated is the ak.ms/AI Cloud PCs Learn. So that's all the Learn docs that are specific to the AI-enabled cloud PCs. I think my last question, Killian, on that one, you mentioned you can see, a user can see if they should be expecting the AI-enabled features because it'll have a tag. And is that available on all of our clients, Windows, Mac OS, iOS, Android, and web, or is it only a subset?
It will be available on all clients. I believe for the Link device, it's currently rolling out this month, but it should be available on other devices at this time, including web. Yeah. Awesome.
Sweet. Okay, we have a question that's coming in. Ooh, I like this question because it's something I work on. Is there any official documentation available for the new external identities support feature? What's the best way to get started? So I don't know if we still have the blog link available, but yes, we do have documentation available for external identities that, that wasn't in the exact core of the themes here, but that did go GA at Ignite. So if you have users in AVD or Windows 365 that you're inviting in, you can provide them, an AVD session host access or a cloud PC for an external identity. Awesome. There's a link there, ak.ms/external identity support. And so that's GA. There are different limitations right now. It's commercial cloud only. You can invite built-in users or built-in IDPs or custom IDPs. It's only on Windows and web right now. So the documentation will show you some of those caveats. However, we do know that a vast majority of our customers that are looking to use our solutions with external identities are coming from Windows and web. And so we are, as soon as we can, bringing support for the Mac OS, iOS, Android clients as well. And in the future, we'll also be bringing in support for connecting to the government resources, specifically like AVD resources in the Azure government. So we're going to continue really making that limitations list smaller or non-existent if possible. But we'll continue working on that. But that went GA at Ignite. And then maybe the last piece that's also important is that at Ignite, we went public preview for using FS Logics as a profile container solution for external identities on AVD. So that way you can really use external identities in AVD in a pooled environment. For those external identities. And what's really cool is there's not many changes to FS Logics. You can continue using whichever already deployed version of FS Logics. There's just some changes you make to the storage account that you have the profiles. So it's really cool. It's really seamless. That feature that FS Logics for these external identities. Well, we also now with a public preview is FS Logics for cloud only identities. So even your internal users that are only cloud, created in Azure or in Entra, managed through Entra, you can even have those users start having a pooled AVD experience. So super cool. Please go check it out with the link that we had just shown on the screen, which is the ak.ms/external identities support. So, all right, spotlight's off me. Let's no more about me. Sweet. Let's see what other questions we have here. So Lavanya, I'm gonna go. Oh, actually, hold on. We do have a question here. And I think maybe Serena's probably for you. So for cloud apps, how or where is the user data backed up? Like if I think you mentioned the user experience sync. And if a user is a temp employee and has a gap in their work timeline, are there ways to restore their apps and data? Yeah, if they have a 3-month, 6-month gap, is there a way to kind of restore that as opposed to just starting from brand new again?
Yeah, that's a great question. So first of all, when talking about user data, there are a few angles we look at this. One is the personal files on OneDrive. So cloud apps do automatically launch OneDrive if you're on, I think, a version of Windows. But so if a user is syncing all of their files to OneDrive, that will all be in OneDrive. For app-specific data, like app settings and stuff, that will all be through the user experience sync feature, which is connected to the underlying Cloud PC collection, and that will be retained unless you as the admin delete it or if you delete the collection itself. I think we have a few policies coming out too in the future, so admins can be a little bit more granular about that as well.
Got it. And maybe what you were just mentioning about OneDrive, like that's probably a better way to maintain, your files, access, Word docs, PowerPoints, etc. And so maybe for the question of if your contractor has a gap in their work, tell me if I'm wrong. It feels like maybe a good solution is to continue using like OneDrive and SharePoint for those files, where kind of you as a team would manage that. And then because it sounds tricky to say, okay, when they come back, they have to have the same exact user, like in an Active Directory, sync to Entra. It can't be a brand new user or else it gets a brand new ID. It feels like the easier way is to use SharePoint and OneDrive, and then that way the files will always be there. regardless of if the user account is active or deleted.
Exactly, yes. OneDrive is where we should be storing our files.
Okay, cool. Yeah, and I think kind of to your point too, the user experience sync is only for frontline share because it's to maintain the the user kind of metadata as they access maybe a different machine for their task. And so they really shouldn't be installing additional apps, right? Like, yes, you can install browsers in user mode or Visual Studio Code in user mode, but that's not really a long-term solution if you're going to be hopping from machine to machine, right?
Exactly, yeah. I mean, frontline shared machines are reset after the user logs off, so oftentimes those apps won't be stored for the next session anyways.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, if there's any more questions on that one in terms of maintaining the user, kind of like metadata, like their their Outlook, their inbox file, or stuff like that, or if there's any more questions on maintaining access to the apps, let us know. But yeah, it feels like mostly it's use SharePoint / OneDrive for the storage of files and apps, and then if there is any, sorry, for the files, and then if there's any apps that need to be preserved for that user, then realistically it maybe should just be part of the image if it's really necessary for the task they're creating or they're using in these
or the
frontline share scenarios.
autopilot device preparation profile.
Yes, or the autopilot device preparation
Yes.
policy. Is that
Yes.
DCP?
Yes.
Preparation policy. Okay. Cool. We have a question on tech community, which I'm not sure folks here will know. But the question is, when will cloud PCs use NVMe disks for better I/O? So I think this is probably more in terms of us provisioning these cloud PCs with NVMe, but I don't know if anyone here has any specific answers. I know that for most of our licenses, when we have our licenses of, like, let's say enterprise, 4 vCPU, 16 gig RAM, and let's say 256 gigs of storage, the really what we're guaranteeing is those specs, and then we leverage the flexibility of of the platform of Azure to get you a machine that matches those specs. So I don't know if we actually guarantee specific disks or disk types or disk speeds. So we can definitely forward that question on internally and potentially follow up. But I am doubtful that we would, if we do integrate, we may integrate with NVMe disks, but I'm not sure that that's part of the SLA that we would provide as part of purchasing the licenses. Okay. Well, we are running up on time, so we probably have maybe one question left. And then also, for our crew, I like doing, what's your favorite tip or trick for our customers and our listeners to try. So let's do this last question here. Is Windows 365 for agents reimagining the RPA box, which is the robotic process automation, which breaks easily when strict processes are defined. A Copilot-based agent might fare better when buttons move on the website, but it can also deviate and make wrong decisions. And I can imagine that it can require more human checks in the end. Thoughts?
Yeah, great question. A really big distinction, I would say, between RPA before and agent actions, agent workflows now is RPA isn't as intelligent in the sense that it doesn't call on large language models, but agent workflows, they do. So they're able to reason and make more smart decisions on what to do. And we right now have support on both the OpenAI model and on the Copilot. Copilot Research area has the Claude model as well for just pure Copilot Researcher. The intention of using these large language models is there won't be nearly as many human interventions or wrong decisions made. That's the whole point of agent actions and agent workflows.
Maybe as a follow-up to that, I'm curious, do you think that do you expect, Elaine, or do you think that there would just maybe be a reduction in the RPA stuff where maybe you do RPA for more of your own internal processes where you have tighter control on what buttons and actions are available, whereas for general purpose use for regular users, then that would be more like the agent based. I don't know. I'm just thinking out loud.
I think it's different use case. And at the end of the day, all IT admins are trying to do cost control for organizations, right? We use the use case that make the most sense, the solution make the most sense for the use cases. I think that RPA makes a lot of sense for repeated, redundant routine that doesn't require as much reasoning where the LLMs can help. So if it's just batch processing, for example, emails, things like that, maybe RPA makes more sense. But for more complicated tasks, whether it requires corporate data or not, agent processes make more sense. I also do want to piggyback off of Christian, your comment on, is agent more for generic use and corporate tighter controls for RPA? It is the intention of the agent industry and us as a platform to provide robust security compliance controls so you can trust and delegate processes that does require corporate data to the agent, because at the end of the day, there are things that we don't really like to do. For example, I came back from Ignite and had to do the expense report. I really wish, and we're getting close to a world where we can just delegate that to an agent or RPA so I can focus more of my time doing other things. And we're working towards that future. Yeah.
Totally. Yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah, thank you for that, and thank you for that thought experiment. And also thanks for the question too. It's really cool to think about. So yeah, that was gonna be our last question. We have 3 minutes left. Kind of like I mentioned just before that, for my panelists here, I love doing tips and tricks. So that way our customers, partners, listeners can go in, try something out on our product, go test something as an action item after this call. So I'm gonna switch it up. I'm gonna do a reverse alphabetical. So we're gonna go Serena. Yeah, there you go. You're first. What's your tips and trick for the
my tip for this one? I know I've been talking about Windows 365 a lot, but we did also introduce a new feature for AVD remote apps as well. Our team has actually completely rewritten the underlying protocol, and so there are a ton of enhancements that are in preview. So it's better snapping, better dragging, better windowing. So I would recommend going to check that out if you're using AVD remote apps. This preview also supports Windows 365 cloud apps. So I unfortunately don't have a link for you, but just search for remote app enhancements, and you'll find the instructions. It's setting a reg key on your either AVD session host or your cloud PCs, and I would say go check that out.
Awesome. Lavanya?
My tip and trick would be basically try out as many features as you can. Go read about it, and most of all, we are all accessible. So talk to us, reach out to us, so that we build better products that you are going to adopt. So try out and reach out to us. And there's no barrier here.
Awesome. Killian?
My tip or trick is related to AI-enabled cloud PCs. Improved Windows search has improved my life. I'm one of those people who installs random images when I need them, and they have different names that have nothing to do with the image itself. And with improved Windows search, I can look up the content of the image and it just gets returned as part of the search. It's super cool.
Sweet. So turn on your cloud PCs, your AI-enabled cloud PCs for your to get that feature. Sweet. Elaine?
For me, it's along the similar lines. Just go try it. And in the AI sense, just go prompt it. Think of what questions and what things you want the agents to do. If you were at Ignite, there were a lot of prompt cards handed off from the booths. And if not, there are also a lot of suggested prompts if you go to the Copilot features.
Awesome. Yeah, and my tip and trick is just go check out everything we talked about at Ignite. We can throw that up later after this again, but also do follow us for our next AMA. So thank you very much for our host today. That next AMA is going to be the aka.ms/AMA/Windows 365, which will be in the new calendar year of 2026. I don't know how we're already there, which is crazy. So everyone listening, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for your interest in AVD Windows 365. For folks celebrating winter, lunar holidays, have great holidays, and we'll see you on next year. Bye.